NieR Automata has problems. Parts of the plot don't make sense for tens of hours, if ever. Most characters seem to have been named by a ham-fisted philosophy sophomore, and you cannot play this game without being confronted by 2B's butt. And yet, for all Automata's inconsistencies and flaws, it came out of nowhere to hit a wide audience hard. What makes NieR Automata unique isn't how it blends gameplay with narrative, but how it blends game form with narrative. The user interface, or UI, is part of the plot. The fact that you replay the game after beating it is part of the plot. The list goes on. Our thesis, then, is that NieR Automata is great as a video game, not because of its gameplay, but because of its masterful manipulation of the medium and player. Oh, one last thing. It's automata, as in the plural of automaton. And don't worry, I've been saying it wrong too.
Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse? Or some kind of punishment? I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
At first glance, this intro isn't particularly deep. It characterizes the speaker, our protagonist 2B, but without context it's just a melodramatic tone setter. There's no time to consider it as we're thrown straight into an air raid. And just as suddenly...
12H down.
As equipment in the chain of command fails, as the raid becomes a suicide mission, we see two reactions. Despair.
Captain, I think...
And determination.
2B to Operator 6-0. All Allied units down. The operation is compromised. Awaiting further orders.
2B shows more skill, composure, and ineffable luck than her squad mates. She survives. Or not. On normal difficulty at low health, the game automatically heals you before you can take damage again. But on very hard, all hits are fatal, which is probably the only way you discover the brief alternate ending that plays out if you die. Linear games hiccup on player failure, and both of these solutions have flaws. You may not notice the game holding your hand, but if you do, the stakes evaporate. Meanwhile, the alternate ending boots you to the main menu, shattering immersion, and you still have to succeed to continue. Most linear games struggle between forcing a story or making it a reward. But consider this. By integrating difficulty and narrative, Automata lets the player choose what's best for their immersion, to have a power fantasy with fewer interruptions, or to feel the consequences of their actions. Some say that because the solutions are imperfect, linear narratives don't belong in games. I say it's pretty easy to mentally get past, and Automata makes it easier than most games do. After a Death Star-esque infiltration, you reach the end of your flight to a cacophony of failure, yet 2B survives. And here, we get our first look at 2B.
Activating short-range attack gear. Alert. Large enemy group detected.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
A blindfolded gothic Lolita who fights robots with floating teleporting swords. Why is she dressed like a fetish doll? Why is she wearing a blindfold? Why is your short-range attack gear more useful than your f***ing gun? Once again, you're thrown into battle without answers. You dispatch some clockwork toy enemies until a bucket wheel excavator attacks you, accompanied by the first instance of an unknown language. Mid-fight, you're emailed a laser, because science, and eventually a barrage of missiles takes the excavator down, originating from the male equivalents of whatever fantasy 2B fulfills. This is how we meet 9S.
Better make sure he's actually dead next time. That was dangerous, man.
9S is even less what you'd expect than 2B. The person with aerial bombardment at his disposal is...
So, was that big old buzzsaw the Goliath you came here to take out?
childishly eager, and a little overprotective for a soldier. And when he's gone, we have time to realize how insane this is. Adolescents with mecha suits and swords attacking a robot factory. At this point, you can also discover the irony of your assault on robots. You're an android. All promotional material explains this, and you can find your operating system OS chip in the menus. Automata doesn't explicitly state this for a while, but knowing now means we won't have to revisit old information with the full context, and it might assuage viewers confused by the porcelain protagonist to know that, in-universe, they were designed. For now, you don't explore this, and instead fight your way through the factory, picking up G, currency, probably gold, and random items like ores and broken parts. Combat perspective shifts are introduced, as is the concept of signal jamming. Despite the sci-fi setting, you end up relying on the oldest of technologies, sharp sticks. NieR starts to fill in some of the blanks.
You know, ma'am, I'm glad you're here.
Why?
Scanners like me mostly work alone. Scouting out enemy lines and all that, I don't usually get a partner. It's kind of fun.
Emotions are prohibited.
Sorry, ma'am.
And another thing, stop calling me ma'am.
Huh?
It's unnecessary.
Alright then. 2B it is.
Characters established. But while 2B's refusal of an honorific could be for efficiency or as a concession to 9S, the question is raised, why do they have emotions if they're battle droids? 9S goes on.
I guess humans used to use it as a weapons factory, but now it's just crawling with machines. The enemy seems to have repurposed the facility to increase their overall machine production.
So if we don't destroy it, they'll just keep coming.
Post-apocalypse established. But if humans likely designed the androids in their own image, where are humans? 9S is more focused on differentiating androids from the enemy machines, with some damning lines.
Work party B, proceed to cafeteria 25.
What?
It's just accessing random, nonsensical data from the old world. There's no actual meaning behind anything machines do.
This smells fishy like sushi up your nose, but his analysis is accurate. The audio is just general announcements about the cafeteria and leaving work for the day. So, why did the creators include this? We make it outside, not having found our target. When 2B sees birds, 9S reinforces the meek inheriting the earth.
Probably because the environment's changed.
After trying to reason why you haven't found the Goliath yet, you're suddenly attacked by 2 excavators. And when they failed to defeat you,
Is that?
Target enemy detected.
yes, the building you just ran through is now trying to kill you. The battle is framed perfectly with your movement on a 2D plane, but the action in 3D space. This is called 2.5D. This setup confronts you with its scale, but in a manageable way. Dodge, strike, keep firing. The events that require you to run further down the bridge are communicated to the player unfairly late, and dying here ruins the pacing, but they increase isolation, distancing you from the safety of land. It only looks overwhelming. Even before 9S arrives, you feel totally capable of victory. And importantly, it's almost a rhythm game. Look at the double arm attack from the Goliath. Its arms burst into brilliant flame, its eyes flash red, and as the attack slams down, chromatic aberration from the impact grants a technicolor lining for just a moment. And note that the interval between flame and eye is the same length between eye and impact. It's a gorgeous musical attack, and that pacing not only helps the player to time dodges, but equates this battle with a dance, which is deeply disturbing. A young woman dancing around attacks is cool as hell, but it's also a reminder that where others died, 2B succeeds, because you, the player, make killing graceful. You find beauty in violence. It eventually appears you've turned the tables on the Goliath, but when it strikes back, the overprotective 9S knocks the arm away, opening himself up to a vicious uppercut that sends him flying.
9S!
The Goliath appears to have used the last of his energy to do this, and 2B jumps back onto the killer building to track an unresponsive 9S. The building then comes back to life, and you have to fight your way up the living building to get to 9S. Does some of this seem super convenient to the plot? Yes. But even the best literature of all time hinges on coincidences. Hamlet! So let's move on. Finding 9S's damaged body is the first time the game explicitly admits your army is robotic, but as 2B is unfazed by this and you're attacked again, you don't have time to think about it anyway. What's stranger is 2B's reaction.
I have to repair him. Pod, get me staunching gel and logic virus vaccines, then access the—
Inadvisable. The subject's vital signs are too poor to attempt field repair in
Shut up!
current...
Just do what I say!
2B, just go.
You shut up too.
We're soldiers. We take pride in our service.
That's a lot of emotion from the stoic 2B, especially since you'd assume 9S can have his data transferred or saved or something. The whole interaction seems melodramatic and out of character, or at best suggests 2B has way more going on than she lets on. 9S adopts her stoicism, which 2B reluctantly accepts.
All right.
Your pod docks R2-D2 style into his flight suit, and you take off, to defeat the foundation your ally is dying on, which will seal his doom. Consider, for a moment, that this moment is more than high stakes. Really think about what you're doing. Or don't, because, as usual, the game doesn't let you. The Goliath chants kill. Apparently the first androids have heard machines talk, and as 9S begins hacking into the detachable excavator arm,
Control of upper arm. Seized from enemy unit. Marking weak point. Got it.
Seize its control system.
Affirmative. Infiltrating enemy subunit. Behavior table adjusted. Balance controls overridden. Enemy unit subjugation complete.
then, for some reason, you dive straight at the Goliath and stab it in the eye, which for some further reason blows it up. A low point for logic, but the important thing is you somehow crash next to 9S, and while you try to contact Command for assistance, 9S makes light of the fact that you're completely screwed.
Doesn't look like that's going to be necessary.
Oh, great.
Suddenly, he whips out a Deus Ex Machina.
I don't imagine that this is going to end well. The black box. It's ready.
Right.
Requesting destruction of enemy hostiles via black box reaction.
Request accepted.
Doobie, it was an honor to fight with you. Truly.
The honor was mine.
Think about what you've done for a moment. To defeat the enemy, you destroyed the foundation your ally stood on, and ultimately doomed everyone as a result of the center of your being touched by another's. That's a lot to unpack. And now that you're dead, you finally have a moment to consider what this means. What the fuck? 2B is completely fine in some orbiting base, and the black and white indicates flashback. You run along until you see 9S, and surprisingly, this isn't a flashback.
So, mission complete and all that, huh? The Goliaths were wiped out, and we secured a route into enemy territory. Now we can...
9S,
Yeah?
thank you for uploading my data to the bunker.
I did that? Sorry, I don't remember. There wasn't a whole lot of bandwidth down there, you know? I probably only had enough time to back up your memories. Mine are only intact up to the point just before we rendezvoused.
I see.
Glory to mankind.
Glory to mankind.
There's a lot to mine here, but let's focus on what we can know for sure. 9S sacrificed himself to save 2B, which tells us that their ability to repair and upload is limited, and that 9S cared for 2B more than himself. But this version of 9S only exists in her memory. The 9S we have is a blank slate. Imagine you clone someone in order to get them back, but the clone, of course, is only biologically identical. It doesn't have the memories. It's the person you knew, but not one that knows you. Same idea. The moment immediately preceding 2B's fist clench is a salute to humanity. Is she frustrated at the situation, or perhaps directly at humanity? And pay attention to the salute. Where people cover their hearts, androids cover their core. And in 2B's case, she covers her cleavage window. As absurd as 2B's design is, the raw sexuality of the androids is one of the few truly human characteristics they have. And in glorifying mankind, this imitation is repudiated, denying association, denying validity. We'll come back to this, but food for thought. Maybe 2B's butt does more work for the story than we, or perhaps even its creators, intended. Rather abruptly, we're treated to a history lesson.
5012 AD. The year mankind's glorious history came to a sudden and abrupt end, when the world was invaded by aliens from beyond the stars. The aliens unleashed a new breed of weapon, machine life forms, that all but annihilated human civilization. The handful of survivors that remained fled from Earth, seeking refuge on the moon. 5204 AD. Humanity launched its counterattack, deploying an army of androids from a network of orbiting bases. But after more than a dozen large-scale descents upon the enemy, we still haven't managed to repel the invaders. That is why you, the Yorha forces, exist. To break this stalemate, once and for all. You are our ultimate weapon, and you must put an end to this war.
Understood, sir.
I wish you good hunting.
Glory to mankind. Glory to mankind.
Glory to mankind.
Soon we'll discover that the year is 11,945, during the 14th Machine War, which means that androids and machine lifeforms have been fighting a proxy war on behalf of humans and aliens for 7 millennia. This, finally, gives us enough context to revisit 2B's opening monologue and use it to argue why NieR Automata is elevated by being a game. Listen again.
Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse? Or some kind of punishment? I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
Everything that lives is designed to end. But given that robots can be rebuilt, transferred, and saved, is 2B calling androids living, or is this statement ironic? The life-death spiral, dizzying entrapment, continues both of these threads. Does the spiral refer to everyone participating in this unending war, or specifically to the robots chosen to be rebuilt and sent back out to fight ad infinitum, like 2B and 9S? Curse and punishment are worth parsing out too. While a punishment comes from a sentient entity, one can be cursed by objects, places, or actions, which would imply, perhaps, a transgression against nature. The curse-punishment comparison then asks, did someone defile the natural order or offend God? And what about the fact that everything that lives is designed to end? This android not only believes in curses, but a god. And if this mortal god refers to one of the humans they're trying to protect, a further question is raised. What are humans to androids? And one last question. Is this footage of the first mission distracting? Because if so, that's the point. These questions resonate throughout Automata, but from the first, you're denied time to consider them. Games aren't a passive medium. You have to actually perform the fighting for your life while your compatriots are slain. That instills in you the soldier's mindset that there isn't time to think about ramifications when duty and survival are at hand. The first thing NieR Automata does, in other words, is use the fact that it's a game to overwhelm you with questions you can't possibly answer and make you, the player, swallow them and focus on a battle with incomplete context. The format of a game starting, sudden control of interactive challenges, is used to transpose the experience of soldiers fighting for things they don't fully understand. And it's tragic. With bare-bones context and stakes, everything we just overcame doesn't carry as much weight as the interpersonal loss of 9S not having the meaningful memories that 2B has. So, like 2B, our reasons to continue are either to find the killing fun, learn more about what we're fighting for, figure out our relationship with 9S, or just keep following orders because, well, that's how a game like war works. And speaking of how games work, we've only seen the tip of the iceberg on how NieR Automata uses its form to tell its story.
I know no one likes the idea of self-destructing.
But more on that in the next video.